Larson should never race in NASCAR again. I'm in the category of giving everyone a second chance. You know, regardless of what they have done, if they're willing to accept what they did and willing to make the appropriate steps to ensure and make people know, hey, this was a one-time thing, or this was something that was completely out of character and I will never say this again, then I'm going to give him a second chance, okay? Now, what happens to his career? Well, what I can say is this. You're not going to see him in a Cup Series this year, next year, and maybe the year after that. I see if Kyle Larson is going to return to the Cup Series, I see it maybe till 2023.
Yep, that was me back in April when I said that I wouldn't really care if Kyle Larson would come back to NASCAR. However, now in August, not only do I want him to come back, I want him to come back in a top team and be successful. And basically, I want Kyle Larson to have a second chance in NASCAR. Now, I know that might be a bit shocking for some, but I think after I read you this article, I think you'd want him back too. Yo, what is up everyone? My name is Jet Kraus and welcome back to the episode of Inside the Lines, Hear Me Out, the show where I give my thoughts and opinions on all the most controversial topics in the world of motorsports. Today we're going to be talking about Kyle Larson. That piece I just played to you at the start of the video was from a video that I uploaded back on April 16th, April 15th or April 16th, the day after Kyle Larson was caught saying the N-word on a live stream in an iRacing event. Well, what was it? 3 or 4 months have passed by since that incident, and we've heard very little about Kyle Larson's future. We know about what he's doing currently at the moment, him absolutely being a god on dirt, winning multiple races, just being flat out dominating, which is what we expected from Larson in NASCAR, but he's doing it on dirt. But one thing I've always wondered was, when will he come back? Now, I uploaded another video a few days after that saying after he was fired, I said that he would return to NASCAR at the earliest, I think around 2023. Now, in my opinion, I thought at first that maybe Kyle Larson might be blackballed in NASCAR. You have not heard a single team owner talk about Larson in any way, either in a good way or in a bad way, referencing history or anything like that. You've not heard a word out of Kyle Larson from any NASCAR team owner. Except for one, 3-time NASCAR champion Tony Stewart, who owns or co-owns Stewart-Haas Racing for the NASCAR Cup Series and the NASCAR Xfinity Series. He basically flat out told NASCAR to get off their ass. Take a listen.
I mean, the kid was hot in NASCAR and was doing a great job. And then, since his problems, he's got in a sprint car and absolutely just annihilated the sprint car field. So, I think if you got to pick somebody right now, you got to pick Kyle Larson. But NASCAR's got to get off their ass and do the right thing and give this kid an opportunity to get back in a car. I think he's paid his penalty and he's served the penalty long enough where we've had similar instances in the sport that have happened, and the penalties didn't last near as long as what this has lasted with Kyle. And it's changed Kyle's world. It turned everything upside down. And not only did it affect him, it affected his family and a lot of other people that didn't deserve to be affected. So I think it's been long enough. I think it's time for NASCAR to get off their ass and do the right thing and allow him to come back in the series now.
Stewart continued to defend Larson in another interview with Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, further saying that, hey, NASCAR needs to get him back in a stock car because that's where he truly belongs.
NASCAR hasn't even let Kyle Larson back in, which I feel like is a mistake right now on NASCAR's part. I mean, I feel like it's time to get Kyle back in the sport. I think he's paid his dues. I think he served his penalty as far as society is concerned, and I think it's time for NASCAR to let the kid have an opportunity to get back where he belongs, and that's behind a stock car.
So yeah, if you know NASCAR, Tony Stewart, he can get all riled up from the smallest of things. And we know Stewart has had a controversial past in NASCAR. And his team has been known to take drivers that have been controversial and sort of polish them up, clean them up, and let them be better people. Kurt Busch is a perfect example. I mean, before Stewart-Haas, he was fired by Roush and fired by Penske and was racing for Phoenix Racing in 2012. Then later picked up a ride for Furniture Row and was able to get back into the top level at NASCAR with Stewart-Haas Racing, win a few races, including the Daytona 500 in 2017. So we know Stewart-Haas has been known to take up controversial drivers, clean them up, and make them better. Stewart has also been a controversial driver himself. You know him for being a hothead, even from the smallest of things. So that interview was pretty tame in my opinion. But the fact of the matter is that Larson, he has a big supporter in Tony Stewart with a big time NASCAR Cup team. Now, we're going to get into that a bit later on in the episode. Now, as for Kyle Larson and the journey back to NASCAR, currently, this is the situation. There have been mixed reports about the current status of Kyle Larson in NASCAR. Some people are saying that he has been reinstated. Some people are saying he hasn't even done sensitivity training yet. There are a lot of mixed messages going on. Well, this is an update from Bob Pockrass. And he said, quote, that NASCAR has discussed with Larson about being reinstated and the procedures. But Larson has not formally requested a reinstatement process. They have talked about it, but Larson has not formally requested one. So that is what the situation is at the moment. But after this article, I really hope that NASCAR and a lot of others give Larson a second chance. In his first interview since being fired on April 15th, Kyle Larson sat down with AP's Jennifer Fryer at an Indianapolis hotel on Wednesday to discuss what happened on April 15th and the journey since then. We will go over some key points and notes because, in my opinion, I really do believe Larson should deserve a second chance in NASCAR. That's why we're going to be going over some notes to back up my argument. But obviously, this is an opinionated show with Hear Me Out. So before you guys talk about anything, just hear me out. Let me explain my reasons, and then you can jump to your own conclusion in the comments down below. So we start off with this. After Kyle Larson was fired from Chip Ganassi Racing, it was reported that Kyle Larson sold his North Carolina home, and he flew back to California because he said that he was too embarrassed to show his face. He said, quote, I was just ignorant and immature. I didn't understand the negativity and hurt that comes with that word. That's not a word that I had ever used. I grew up in Northern California. All I ever did was race, and that's all I was focused on. There's probably a lot of real life experiences I didn't get to have, and I was just ignorant to how hurtful that word is. He started his journey with retired soccer star Tony Saneth, whose foundation works on youth development and empowerment in the Minneapolis area. I take my work very seriously and made it clear I was not here for any dog and pony show where he shows up and writes a check and we do a photo op. But we were taking 20 pallets of food on 100-degree days and sorting them for hours to distribute to a line of 400 cars. He was very much here to listen, to learn, and this was about him growing personally. Now, just a few weeks later at that same city, we know what happened. The George Floyd incident would take place. I'm not going to go into it. We know what happened. But in the weeks after that incident, Larson again returned to Minneapolis. And Saneth took him back to the site where George Floyd died, and they toured parts of the city in heavily damaged areas where protests occurred due to racial injustice. Larson also continued work he'd already been doing with the Urban Youth Racing School in Philadelphia, a nonprofit organization that helps minorities advance in motorsports. And at the end of the article, Kyle Larson finished it off with these two quotes, and I'm going to read it in full. He said, it started off, I just felt like there was more that I needed to do, and I wanted to show through actions that I'm a better person than I was before. The sensitivity training was great, but I felt like it was just a starting point to what else I needed to do. I made a mistake and I'm paying for it, and I accept that. NASCAR is where I always wanted to be, and I do believe I proved I can compete at the cup level. I'd like to get back there, and we'll see if there's a way. All I can do is continue to improve myself and let my actions show who I truly am. So yeah, that was the full article from Kyle Larson, or at least that was part of the article. If you guys want to read the full article yourself, I'll leave a link in the description down below for you guys to check it out. But overall, I think just from that alone, that article alone makes me in favor of Larson. That puts me back on Larson's side. I think back in, I want to say a month ago, I said I was a bit iffy on Larson, and some people took it the wrong way. Some people think I was iffy on Larson returning. I'm not iffy on Larson returning. If he returns, great. If he doesn't, no. Then whatever. But I was iffy on the perception of Larson returning. You have to understand, since April, NASCAR has done a 180 in terms of how they approach inequality and approach inclusion in NASCAR. They have rallied around their only black driver, Bubba Wallace. We've seen what they've been doing at Talladega and at Martinsville. And I was worried about, I was iffy on what the perception would be like from other drivers, from other fans, from other teams, and from outsiders of NASCAR that don't know much about the sport, what would their view be like if Larson were to return and in a top ride nonetheless? But I think after reading this article, I don't think anyone should have a problem with Larson returning. That's my opinion. Again, that's my opinion. I don't think anyone should have any problem with Larson returning. He has shown that he's a better person, and I think he deserves a second chance. And let's be honest with ourselves. There have been many athletes that have done a lot worse than what Larson did and have gotten second chances, third chances, sometimes even fourth chances. So I think, me personally, I'm never going to forget what he said, but I can definitely forgive him, and I can definitely give him a second chance, and I would want for him to succeed in NASCAR once again. And I think the main reason why, it's a small thing, but it's very important, is the fact that no one knew about this. During these 4 months, no one knew. The only thing we knew about Larson since April was him being a god on dirt. That's all we've heard from Larson. We didn't know about the stuff that he did with Tony Sannett for his foundation. We didn't know about when he went to the Urban Youth Racing School and had that lesson with that 400 years of racial inequality and connecting more with African American communities and racing. We didn't learn none of this until now. And that is amazing, because I feel like that shows he doesn't care about, putting it on social media or anything like that. When he first deactivated his Twitter, a lot of people thought, oh, well, he's just trying to get away from the backlash. He's just trying to get away from all the bad stuff. I think now, looking back, I think he probably deactivated his Twitter just to get away from social media, just to learn more about himself, to grow as a better person. And again, him not posting it says a lot, because if he were to post all these things like, hey, look, I'm at a food drive giving stuff, to people in need. Look at me, I'm a better person. Look at this. A lot of people would take it as fake. You're just posting it so you can build a perception of, look, I'm a good person. You're probably just doing it for show. A lot of people on social media, specifically YouTube influencers and other people like that, they would get into controversy and then do stuff to say, hey, look, I'm a better person, when they really don't care. They don't care about the situation. All they care about is getting paid. Larson, though, I think is going to be one of the few, I guess, celebrity athletes or celebrities in general in recent years to have a massive, massive controversy and actually take the time to learn from it and come out a better person. And I absolutely love that about him. And that's what I absolutely love about this whole situation and why I firmly believe he should have a second chance at NASCAR. That alone, at least for me. I mean, you have to understand, even now, Larson sometimes still gets hate from what happened in April. I mean, he could just say, hey, look at all the stuff I did. I'm a better person. You can shut up now. But no, he decides, you know what? Forget social media. Forget what people say. I'm going to go out there and work on myself and try to learn from it. And that's what I absolutely love about it. So now we got this out of the way. Now let's focus on the second part. I talked about earlier on in the episode about Tony Stewart and his thoughts on Larson. Currently, he's the only team owner to talk about anything Larson related, and good nonetheless. So, would Larson return to NASCAR in 2021? Well, I see only this reason happening. First of all, he ain't going to be in a Chevrolet car. That's number one. You're not going to see him in Chevrolet. He already got fired. You're not going to see him in Toyota because there are no spots in Toyota. Ford and Stewart Haas is the only spot available for him. So currently in 2020, there are 4 drivers. So currently in 2020, 2 drivers are currently have not confirmed rides for next year. Clint Bowyer and Eric Almirola. Harvick, he's set. Custer, him has a big time sponsor with Gene Haas, and both Haas and Stewart love Custer, so he's gonna stay. Harvick, we don't need to talk about Harvick. He's already in a world of his own. Eric Almirola and Bowyer currently don't have confirmed rides for next year. The only way I could possibly see this happening is if both Bowyer and Almirola not return to Stewart Haas next year. That's the only way I could see Larson back in the Cup Series next year. Here's why. Bowyer, he's got Rush Truck Centers as, I guess, the main sponsor. Well, you have to understand that sponsor is mainly heavily invested by Tony Stewart. So it's basically his sponsor. He can do what he wants with it. Eric Almirola, he has a big-time sponsor with Smithfield. In fact, that's his only sponsor, if I'm not mistaken. Smithfield is also in a contract year this year. If they leave, then Almirola's out because Almirola doesn't have any other sponsors. So if Smithfield leaves, Almirola leaves Stewart-Haas. That's just how it's going to be. Another thing you have to also point out is Chase Briscoe in the Xfinity Series, a 25-year-old from Indiana. Stewart absolutely loves Briscoe, and Briscoe has been tearing it up in the Xfinity Series, winning 5 or 6 races already this season. If he wins the championship, which I think is a very, very likely possibility, he will for sure go up into the Cup Series. The only way I could possibly see this happening is if both Bowyer and Almirola lose their rides so that it can fill in for Briscoe and Larson. You can put Briscoe in the 10 car and maybe put the 14 car, you can put in Larson, put Rush Truck Centers on the car because, again, that's a major sponsor by Tony Stewart. You can also put Haas on the car because that's owned by Gene Haas. Gene Haas has been known to sponsor multiple cars. He sponsored the 14 car as well as the 41 car. But let's say Almirola stays and Bowyer leaves. Well, Briscoe would replace Bowyer, and maybe Larson could go to the Xfinity Series in the 98 car. Again, Gene Haas and Tony Stewart can find a way to use their own sponsors with Rush Truck Centers and Haas Inc. Incorporated to fill in those gaps, or they can do similar to what Chip Ganassi did with Spire Motorsports, have a 5th car for a lower funding team, give them all the parts so that it's technically a 5th Stewart-Haas car, and have Larson run a part-time schedule on that. I don't know. Those are really the only 2 ways I can see that happening. Opening up giving Larson a ride for a smaller funded team, but giving him Stewart-Haas parts for a part-time schedule in the Cup Series. Having Almirola and Bowyer leave Stewart-Haas and have Larson and Briscoe replace them. Or having Larson go to the Xfinity Series in the 98 car, Bowyer leaves, Briscoe jumps up to replace Bowyer. That's the only way I can see that happening. Stewart is not going to take Larson over Briscoe. That's just facts. Briscoe is going to be the number 1 driver before anyone talks about Larson. But there is a strong possibility, a very strong possibility, we could see Larson back in NASCAR as early as next year. And I, for one, will be excited if he does return. Again, I talked about it in the article. He has grown. He has truly changed, I feel like. And he deserves a second chance. Now, what the perception I feel like would happen if Kyle Larson were to return, I have no idea, but I don't think it should be a major deal. I think if you look on social media, compared to 2 months ago, it's like a night and day. If you look on people, at least in the motorsports community, their thought on Kyle Larson 2 months ago, it would not be very positive. But I think now, I think a lot of people are for Larson returning, and I do hope he gets that chance very, very soon. But yeah, that is my opinion on Kyle Larson. He deserves a second chance at NASCAR. Simply that. Thank you guys so much for hearing me out. Now, I want to pass the question off to you. With this being Kyle Larson, what are your thoughts on the article? Do you really think Kyle Larson has truly changed? And do you think he deserves a second chance? And finally, what would your thoughts be if Larson were to return to NASCAR, and if so?